The shuttle arrived before dawn, moving like a wound that had forgotten how to bleed. Its headlights were off, as if it didn't want to be seen by the world it crept through. Not hiding, lurking. A presence too aware of its own wrongness. MIA, Mia Isabelle Alvarez, stood alone beneath the sick fluorescence of the staff access light. It buzzed overhead in a nauseating shade of yellow-orange, a halo for lost things. She gripped a letter in one hand, its paper gone soft at the edges, and heard carry-on in the other. The envelope bore her name, misspelled like a half-remembered dream. She hadn't corrected it. Her first day had begun the moment she signed the contract. Or maybe before, but it hadn't felt real until now. Now everything felt far too real. Real like the edge of a blade. The van's windows were tinted obsidian, dark enough to reflect her face and erase it at the same time. The driver wore mirrored sunglasses that ate the dim light and gave nothing back. He didn't speak, he didn't smile, just raised one hand and pointed toward the sliding door, the movement stiff, as if remembering how to be human. Mia hesitated, then climbed inside, clutching the letter tighter. The paper crinkled like dry skin. The door hissed shut behind her. No music, no engine noise, no welcome. The van rolled forward, deeper into the industrial belly of Morrowvale International, past things travelers weren't meant to see. Fuel silos, skeletal vehicles, tarmacked, warped by ancient heat. Beyond the curtain of glossy terminals and food courts was this, the bruised underside of the airport where time didn't pass so much as pool. Mia pressed her forehead to the glass and watched the last traces of the ordinary world fall away. The silence was so complete it seemed like pressure. She could feel it in her chest, hear her own pulse. The hum of unseen machines buzzed like insects behind the drywall. She unfolded the letter again, though she already knew the words by heart. Report to Terminal Z. Lower access level, Orientation Room 4. Clearance will be provided upon biometric entry. No department, no job title, no logo, no contact number. The formatting was plain, almost clinical, but something about it felt wrong in a way she couldn't name. Not threatening, just aware. But she needed the job. She needed the reset. Her life had collapsed inward, and this, whatever it was, had arrived like a rope thrown into a hole. The van slowed. It stopped in front of a structure that did not resemble a terminal at all. A sliver of metal and concrete, buried deep in the airport's bones. The sort of building that existed in architectural blueprints only as a margin note. No windows, one steel door, a keypad the size of a child's hand. The screen blinked to life as she stepped towards it. Welcome, MIA. Identity confirmed. She froze. Her initials. MIA. She had never liked them. Not when people used them as a joke. Not when they appeared on spreadsheets like a warning. Missing, unaccounted for, gone. She blinked hard, cleared her throat, and stepped forward as the door unlocked with a hiss, the air behind it colder than it should have been. She crossed the threshold, and behind her, without even the whisper of tires, the van vanished into silence, like it had never been there at all. The door closed behind her like a seal breaking, then reforming, No echo, just the intimate finality of a coffin lid. The inside was refrigerated and wrong. Too cold for August. It smelled faintly of metal and lavender, the kind used in artificial cleaning products, or morgues. Fluorescent lights buzzed above her, and a rhythmic flicker, as if they were trying to blink. Mia took a step forward. The floor dipped slightly, subtly unlevel in a way that made her body recalibrate with every stride. This place wasn't meant for walking. Not really. The hallway stretched out ahead, painted in a sterile shade of gray that absorbed detail. The walls were smooth and not quite flat, subtly convex, like they were breathing in. No signage, no arrows, no sound. Just one word burned in red letters above a door at the far end. Orientation. She moved toward it because there was nowhere else to go. The letter in her hand felt heavier now. She couldn't remember folding it, but it was folded, creased, clean, and sharp, as if by someone else's fingers. As she neared the door, it slid open without a sound. Inside, a room. Windowless, featureless. The kind of room that would look identical whether you were in National City, a seal, or buried under the earth. A desk sat at the center, bolted to the floor. One chair, a screen built into the far wall. Behind the desk, a man sat waiting. Or rather, something that looked like a man. His name tag said J. Mercer. His suit was wrinkleless and bone-colored, something between ivory and fog. His face was technically correct. Eyes, mouth, eyebrows, all in place, but nothing moved when he smiled. Not his skin, not his soul. Only the lips curled back, carefully practiced. "Welcome to Morrowvale International," he said. "We're pleased to have you on board." Mia didn't sit. He gestured to the chair. She hesitated, then lowered herself into it. The vinyl cushion hissed softly, like something exhaling under her weight. Mercer continued. "Before we begin, I'll need to confirm biometric clearance." The wall behind him changed. No flicker, no transition. Just suddenly, a scanner glowing softly blue, palm-shaped, waiting. Mia pressed her hand to it. It was cold. Not just cold, indifferent, like pressing flesh to stone. The screen pulsed. Mia Isabelle Alvarez, identity confirmed. Clearance 4B Violet. Her name, correct this time, but she hadn't typed it. Mercer inclined his head as if they'd pass a test neither of them had mentioned. "Excellent. That concludes intake. Orientation will commence now." The lights dimmed. The screen flared to life. What played wasn't a video. Not exactly. No narrator, no music. Just a sequence of images stitched together like fragments from surveillance footage and dreams. Empty corridors, flickering signs, a jet bridge stretching into the dark, a tarmac with no planes. Then, a woman walking in slow motion, her head turned toward the camera. Her face was Mia's. Mia inhaled sharply. Mercer did not react. The screen went black. "You've been selected for transitional access to Tier 0 operations," Mercer said. "This is an honor." "Tier what?" she asked, voice barely more than breath. "Tier 0, he repeated. "Gatekeeping functions, escort protocols, retrieval. We don't call it security. That implies boundaries. This, he gestured vaguely, is more like alignment. You'll understand soon. Mia swallowed. This was the part where she should have walked out, but her legs didn't twitch. Her breath didn't rise. Something had been set in motion the moment the door closed behind her, and now it was moving forward, indifferent to her uncertainty. "We'll issue your badge shortly," he said. "Until then, follow the arrows." "What arrows?" The lights changed. The walls glowed faintly. A thin red line had appeared on the floor, curving away from the desk like a vein. She turned back, but Mercer was no longer sitting. The chair was empty. The desk was gone. Only the red lines remained. Mia followed. The red line led her. It didn't blink. It didn't pulse. It simply existed, unwavering, painted, or projected, onto the linoleum floor like a path a machine might recognize. Mia followed it, one step at a time, her footsteps echoing with that muffled underwater quality of dreams you can't quite wake from. The hallways twisted, not dramatically, no sharp turns or descending stairs, but gradually, like the entire building was coiling in on itself. Occasionally, the overhead lights would flicker or change temperature, switching from industrial white to a golden hue that made the walls appear jaundiced. There were doors, dozens of them, all closed, all unmarked. She passed a window that looked out over nothing. A pane of glass set into the wall with blackness beyond it, like the inside of a sealed box. Her reflection moved half a second too late. She stopped walking. Her breath caught in her throat as she stared at herself, or what should have been herself, standing still in the mirrored surface, face blank, eyes wide. Her reflection blinked first. Then the lights shifted again, and the reflection was gone. Mia kept moving. The red line widened into a circle, a gate, an archway built into a wall that hadn't been there before. Above it, a flickering placard. Gate 0. There was no door, just a frame. Beyond it, dark. No announcements, no boarding groups, no screens showing departure times, just that word, glowing dim and wrong. Gate 0. It didn't make sense. Gates counted up, not down. Airports were math and motion, schedules and structure. This was none of that. Still, she stepped through. The air changed. On the other side, the light was pinkish, diffuse, as if filtered through the inside of an eyelid. The room was circular, bare, except for a row of old plastic chairs along one wall and a metal table in the center. Something buzzed faintly overhead. It might have been a light. It might have been something alive. The door behind her had vanished. She turned in place, slowly, deliberately. The walls here were the color of old teeth. On the table was a single object. A badge. Black plastic, clipped to a violet lanyard. No name, no title. Just a symbol. A spiral, tight and endless, curling inward. She picked it up. The moment she did, something clicked behind the wall. A panel slid open with the grace of a guillotine. A woman stepped through. Mid-40s, maybe older. Her uniform looked like it belonged to a different decade. Pressed slacks, crisp blazer, insignia stitched onto her sleeve that Mia didn't recognize. An hourglass twisted sideways. Her eyes were the kind of tired that came from seeing too much. "You're early." Mia didn't answer. She couldn't. The woman looked her over once, then reached out and tapped the badge hanging from Mia's hand. "You don't want to lose that," she said. "It knows you now." Who are you?" The woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Orientation's over," she said. "You're on shift." "What shift?" The woman didn't reply, just nodded toward a second door where the air shimmered like heat over asphalt. Mia didn't move. The woman stepped aside, revealing a sign above the door, a phrase painted in the kind of paint that glows even when the power dies. "Proceed to the edge. Remember only what remembers you back." The lights flickered. The woman was gone. So Mia walked through the door into the into the architecture that wasn't quite architecture anymore. Gate 0 closed behind her. Mia descended into the quiet hum of Gate 0, each step slower than the last. The stairwell ended in a low corridor that opened into a terminal-like space, if a terminal had been drained of time and filled with static. No arrivals, no departures, no clocks. Only silence and flickering fluorescence, and him. A man stood near the window, though the glass revealed nothing but blackness, like the back of a closed eyelid. He wore a long coat and held his posture like someone who had been waiting not for hours, but for seasons. When he turned, his face lit with recognition, not surprise. "There you are," he said softly. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come." Mia stopped short. "Do I know you?" His smile was careful, like something retrieved from memory too many times. "You did," he said. "Not long ago, or maybe much longer than it feels." She searched his face. Something stirred behind her ribs, like a name forgotten in a dream. "I'm sorry. I don't remember." "That's all right," he replied as if it was expected. "We forget things all the time. The important ones find us again." He looked down at the manual hanging from her lanyard, a manual that wasn't there a moment ago, but was now bonded to her badge. "They gave it to you then. You're the one they sent?" "The one they sent for what?" He tilted his head, considering her like a page halfway turned. "I'm supposed to leave," he said, "but the gate won't open. It says I'm not ready. Or maybe it's waiting on you." Mia turned toward the screen above the jetway arch. Its light sputtered, cycling broken data. "Passenger, unverified. Manifest, incomplete. Name." She flipped open the manual. A new page had appeared on its own, still warm. "Gate 0, Flight 000. Passenger redacted. Status, name missing." He took a step closer. "It's all right," he said, voice low, kind. "I don't expect you to remember all at once." She stared at him, struck by a sudden ache, like she was standing in the aftermath of something that hadn't happened yet. Her presence curled through the air like a scent tied to an old apartment, or a dream from childhood returning unbidden. "You're familiar," she whispered. "You saved me once," he said, "in a way I didn't know I needed. Maybe you will again." The screen behind him glitched. A deep mechanical thrum passed through the floor. He turned to look. "Manifest incomplete. Name not found." He exhaled, calm. "It's all right," he said again, as if comforting her. Then his outline wavered, like a candle in a strong draft, like someone stepping backward into a fog. "I'll be here," he said, "when you're ready." And then he wasn't. Not gone, just displaced, like the space he'd taken had only ever been borrowed. Mia stood alone in the room, the air now still and strangely brittle. The manual in her hand felt heavier. The screen powered down with a final, quiet flicker. She closed the book, pressing the cover to her chest, and stood there, remembering nothing, but feeling everything. The corridor didn't take Mia back the way she came. It twisted sideways, then downward, then somewhere else entirely. The overhead lights dimmed in succession behind her, soft and rhythmic, like breath exhaled through the building itself. No arrows, no signs, just the faint sensation of being drawn, the way water follows a carved channel, like a magnetic pull or a memory rethreading itself through bone. She moved without question, not because she knew where she was going, but because something inside her was already on its way there. That voice, "You used to know it," had cracked open a part of her that hadn't made a sound in years. The sadness wasn't in being forgotten. It was in knowing it would happen. The hallway narrowed, then opened again into a forgotten staff lounge. Everything in it was decaying slowly, but with purpose. Vinyl chairs bore the ghosts of bodies long removed. A vending machine blinked error in slow green stutters. On the far wall, a wooden plaque hung askew. Its center wore blank, erased by time, but beneath it, screwed into the tile, a smaller brass plate remained. "Authorized emotional cargo only." Below it, a metal door, warped and pitted with time. Its handle had been touched thousands of times, and remembered none of them. Just smudged oil and the press of absence. Mia's badge beeped softly. The door sighed again like a tired lung. She stepped through. The room beyond was circular, windowless. The walls were tiled in silver, each one subtly convex, like she had stepped inside a polished eye. The air buzzed, not with sound, but with memory. It smelled faintly of copper, ozone, and the inside of a locked jewelry box. In the center of the room hovered the mirror. It wasn't supported, it didn't hang, it simply floated, free and effortless, suspended like a coin held in a magician's hand. Its surface rippled slowly, as though the very concept of reflection was trying to remember how to work. Beneath it, engraved in brass. The mirror of memory, in memory of those who remember too much. Mia approached, her breath fogged. The temperature fell in degrees, subtle but precise. A shiver bloomed beneath her sleeves. Her skin prickled. The mirror shimmered. Then it showed her. Perfectly. Almost. Same posture, same stare. But the reflection wore a different life. A ragged hoodie, sleeves frayed to thread, hair shorter, face thinner. 15. She stood on a wooden bench behind the downtown bus depot, a place she hadn't thought about in years, yet recognized instantly. She remembered the cold, the hunger, the fight with her mother that had ended not with shouting, but with deadbolt turning. 2 days with nowhere to go. Then he sat beside her. A boy, maybe 17, unfolded into the seat without drama. She watched him shrug off a denim jacket and offer it without words. Watched herself, younger and sharp with suspicion, take it anyway, before sitting next to him. He smiled unevenly. He reached into his backpack, pulled out a sandwich, split it. His mouth moved. The glass gave no sound, but Mia knew what he said. "You don't have to tell me anything, but I'll sit here as long as you want. Everyone should get at least one person who waits." Tears welled, slow and hot. She remembered his warmth. She remembered the stillness he gave her, like a harbor. He hadn't asked for her name. He hadn't told her his. But he'd waited. The mirror rippled again, and now it showed her current self, older, worn, holding the manual against her chest like a relic. She stared at her reflection, unmoving. Then, behind the glass self, he appeared again, just as she'd seen him at Gate 0. Not older, not younger, as if the years had only ever stood around him in a circle. He smiled, and then the mirror wrote, "You left me behind, but I stayed. Find my name, write it where it belongs." The manual burned warm in her arms. She opened it with trembling fingers. A new page, red-framed and pulsing faintly. New entry. Manifest update pending. Passenger. Condition. Name must be remembered. Flight designation. FLT 000. Clearance. Awaiting truth. She closed her eyes. She whispered, "Ellis." The mirror shivered like glass struck by wind. Her reflection smiled. Behind it, Ellis began to fade again. Not like someone dying, but like a candle extinguishing itself once it had done its work. The brass plaque below the mirror glowed gently. A new line had carved itself into the metal. Some truths must be remembered before they can depart. Mia stepped back, her breath no longer fogged. Her heartbeat slowed. She clutched the manual. This time she didn't tremble. Gate 0 was waiting. The manual changed again before Mia reached the corridor's end. The ink rearranged itself as she walked, curling across the page like it had always been waiting there. To complete the manifest, a physical tether must be recovered. Proceed to cargo, memories in hold. The paper warmed beneath her fingers, gently, like sunlight on skin. She followed the corridor as the floor tiles gradually bled from the hospital, gray to a faded burgundy, then deeper still, darkening into the color of dried blood. Her badge vibrated once. Ahead, a lone pillar pulsed with pale light, painted on its surface in blocky black letters, "Lost and not yet found." There was no door, only an elevator, no buttons, no panel, just a faint electrical hum, vibrating in the bones of the air. Then something fluttered down from the ceiling. A glowing tag, a soft blue of breath, held underwater. It drifted like a feather and landed perfectly in her palm. Mia Isabelle Alvarez, Level C. Personal claims only. The elevator doors slid open. Inside, the space defied physics. It was tall, immeasurably tall, and completely shaftless. A steady breeze rose from somewhere below, lifting the ends of her sleeves. The floor didn't vibrate. Nothing moved, and yet when the doors closed, she felt it in her body. A falling sensation, sudden and deep. When the doors reopened, the air changed. Warm, dusty. Familiar in the way an old dream is familiar. Wrong in the details, right in the feeling. She stepped into a warehouse that felt like it had no end. Mountains of luggage climbed into the fog overhead. Conveyor belts stitched the upper darkness like arteries, ferrying lost suitcases in silence or in whispers. Some bags hummed lullabies in forgotten dialects. Others sobbed. She turned in place, heart thrumming, when a shape moved through the haze. Massive. At first, she mistook it for a machine. Then she saw the arms, stitched from canvas straps, duffel handles, snapped zippers, and the sleeves of orphaned coats. Its frame groaned with every movement, but its form was deliberate, careful. The baggage golem. It walked with slow reverence, the weight of centuries in its joints. Its face was nothing but a zipper, half unzipped, mouth agape in breathless effort. No eyes, no voice, only the sound of fabric strained by purpose. When it reached her, it paused, sniffed, bent low, and coughed. The sound echoed like a suitcase bursting open after too long locked. From beneath its bulk, a single red carry-on tumbled forward, scuffed, child-sized, its wheels crooked with age. Mia stared. Her name was on the tag, written in glitter pen, looped and large, her childhood handwriting. A part of her throat closed. She knelt, trembling, and unzipped it. Inside, a denim jacket, sleeves frayed, the cuffs rolled and pinned with safety pins. She recognized it not just with her eyes, but with her entire body. The lining smelled faintly of sun, dust, and something else. Kindness, maybe. In the front pocket, a folded note. Mia, when you get where you're going, send me a postcard. Ellis. Her breath caught. The memory crashed over her, clear and unstoppable. The bus depot, The bench, the jacket warm around her, a sandwich split in half, a stranger with soft eyes who had waited beside her without question. The first time anyone had done that. The first time she had believed someone might care without needing a reason. His name returned fully now, and so did the ache of never saying thank you. She pressed the jacket to her chest and held it there, tight, eyes stinging. The golem watched. Then, with deliberate care, it reached one enormous hand toward her and stamped her palm. The shape of a wing. It burned cold. Baggage verified. Manifest ready. The manual opened itself. A new page pulsed with life. Passenger, Ellis James Croft. Clearance pending. Escort required. A low chime echoed through the warehouse. From the fog above, a conveyor belt slowly unspooled, curling toward her like a waiting tongue. It stopped inches in front of her boots, humming softly. She didn't hesitate. Still clutching the jacket, Mia stepped on. The belt jolted once and began to move. The golem raised its patchwork arm in farewell, and the conveyor carried her into the unknown. The conveyor slowed, then stopped with a long, sighing hiss. Before her stretched a hallway. No signs, no markers, no threshold. Just shadow pressing outward like lungs held too long without air. The entrance waited like an open mouth. This place had no name. Its floor tiles were black and glassy, but they didn't reflect her. As Mia stepped off the belt, she saw not herself, but a version that trailed a beat behind. Same clothes, same face, but eyes dulled, skin dimmed, an echo of absence. The air pressed in, dense, intentional. This wasn't silence from lack of sound. It was engineered, laid brick by brick into the walls. A silence meant to seal things away. Every footstep she took felt too loud, too alive, like her breathing was a trespass. Amber lights pulsed faintly at the seams of the floor and walls. A slow rhythm, a heartbeat on life support. Midway down the corridor stood a figure. He moved in deliberate circles, mop in hand, gliding over the black tile with the elegance of ritual. Each stroke left behind a slick residue that shimmered faintly, almost imperceptibly, like static on the skin. And as he moved, footprints disappeared behind him, erased as if they'd never been made. He turned before she could speak. The janitor of Oblivion. His jumpsuit bore no logo. His face was deeply creased, not with age, but with the fatigue of holding back tides. One eye was cloudy, the other clear and impossibly white, like an empty page. Around his neck hung a pen on a chain, not decorative, sacred. He studied her with an expression somewhere between pity and inevitability. You go upstream now. His voice was like gravel wrapped in velvet, worn smooth from use, but never made soft. Most don't. I need to pass, Mia said. Gate 0, I know where you're headed. Doesn't mean you're ready. He dipped the mop back into a bucket that hadn't been there a moment ago. A faint splash, then a gesture of his chin toward the corridor. This place remembers you too. Be careful which part of yourself you answer to. He stepped aside. The hallway opened, and the air changed again. It was not cold, it was sharp, like stepping into a sealed room where emotions had been vacuum-packed and shelved. Mia stepped forward, and the voices began. Not voices made of sound, but sensation. Not spoken, but remembered. They bloomed behind her eyes and curled around her thoughts, like fog creeping into a locked house. You made him up. He was never real, just a soft place to land, a story to survive yourself. You never sent a postcard. You never meant to. You left him behind like everything else, because forgetting was always the plan. Her arms tightened around the denim jacket. It had become heavier, the fabric soaked in accusation. The corridor ahead seemed to stretch, elongate, resist her movement. She dropped to one knee, gasping. The lights flickered overhead. You don't get to remember now. Not after you let go for so long. Not after you let him fade. She pulled the note from the jacket pocket with shaking hands. Mia, when you get where you're going, send me a postcard. The words shimmered. The paper warmed in her hand. It remembered, even when she hadn't. She stood and spoke aloud. Ellis James Croft. The corridor froze. The voices stilled. The pressure cracked. Ellis James Croft, she said again. I remember you. Her voice filled the space like light in a dark room. It didn't echo. It anchored. I'm sorry I forgot. I was scared, but I remember now. The lights flared, soft and amber gold. The silence uncoiled. The corridor released her. She walked forward, slow, steady, cradling the jacket like it was holy. At the far end, a door hissed open with a gentle exhale. The janitor was waiting. He looked at her, not with approval, but understanding. Keep the name with you, he said. Some memories rot backwards. Letting go too early can undo the remembering. He removed the pen from the chain around his neck and placed it in her hand. Write it at the gate. Ink like this knows the difference between truth and memory. Mia nodded, breath quiet. The pen was warm. Behind her, the corridor vanished. Ahead, the final threshold waited. The gate shimmered like heat over glass. Gate 0, once dim and forgotten, now pulsed faintly, like something alive, beating just beneath a frozen surface. The screen above the arch flickered gently, its message incomplete, but waiting. Flight 000. Status, manifest unresolved. Clearance, pending. Mia stood before it. The denim jacket rested in the crook of her arm. The janitor's pen was balanced between her fingers, its weight delicate, deliberate. The manual tucked beneath her elbow buzzed softly, its hum in rhythm with her own heartbeat, or maybe the gates. Then the air changed. It wasn't sound, it wasn't movement, just a shift, like the terminal had remembered something important. And Ellis was there, not arriving, not walking, simply present, as if he'd always been standing just outside of sight, and now she was finally facing him with the right eyes. He looked the same as before, but clearer. No more blur at the edges, no more question in the outline. His shape had gravity now. His gaze met hers. "You came back," he said. Mia nodded, her throat caught. She tried to speak, but the words stuck. Thick with memory, it took her a breath, then another. "I remember," she said. "Your name, the jacket, the bench, the note, all of it." His smile was quiet, tired, grateful. The page for flight FLT 000 glowed faintly inside its red frame, lines pulsing with that same patient light, waiting not for ink, but for acknowledgement. Her fingers trembled. She uncapped the pen, pressed its tip to the page. Passenger, Ellis James Croft. The ink spilled like sunlight across frost. No blotting, no hesitation. The page accepted the name as though it had been waiting all along. The moment she finished writing the final letter, the gate hissed open. There was no plane, no tunnel, only fog. Golden white, swirling inward, a corridor of light that felt less like a passage and more like a memory returning home. It glowed with quiet invitation. Above her, the screen flickered. FLT 000, now boarding. Ellis stepped forward, his silhouette cut sharp against the glow. Mia lifted the jacket. "It still fits," he said with a dry laugh, sliding his arms into the sleeves. "You kept it all this time?" She shook her head. "It kept me. I just forgot how." He adjusted the cuffs, smiled wider now. "I thought you forgot." "I did," she admitted. "But only for a while. And I think, maybe, it broke something. In both of us." Silence stretched. It wasn't empty. The air was thick with what had not been said for years. She asked, "Do you know where you're going?" Ellis looked toward the light, then back to her. "Not exactly. But I think this place always did. It just needed you to say it first." He extended a hand. She took it, then without thinking, pulled him into a hug. He didn't resist. He was warm, solid, human. And then he let go, turned, and walked into the fog. As his form vanished into the golden haze, the terminal sighed. Not metaphor, not imagination. The whole place breathed. Walls relaxing, lights blooming slightly brighter, the air warmer against her face. A weight she hadn't known she was carrying lifted from her spine. Above, the screen blinked once more. FLT 000 departed. Thank you for flying with Truth in Transit. The manual in her arms closed gently, as though exhaling. She opened it. On the final page, fresh ink gleamed. When a name is spoken with truth, the forgotten may fly. Authored by M.I. Alvarez, Gate 0 Keeper. Mia turned from the gate. Her steps made no echo. At the locker room mirror, her reflection waited, and this time it smiled first. 2 weeks later, Mia sat at the far end of Terminal B, nursing a bitter cup of coffee that tasted like ash and habit. The world above had settled into its old rhythm. Intercom chimes, shoe-scuffed tile, rolling luggage wheels, and garbled boarding announcements. Life at Morrowvale International, at least the part above the thresholds, had returned to something resembling normal. But Gate 0 lingered. Not in sight, but in sensation. A phantom limb just beyond reach. She felt it in the static between announcements, in the movements when the shadows beneath the jet bridges moved wrong, like actors missing their cues. She felt it when the air got too still, or the clocks flickered at the edge of the hour. And she still carried the manual, always tucked beneath her arm, heavier than its weight, humming faintly against her ribs like a second pulse. On her walk back from the break room, she passed the newsstand. Neat rows of tabloids, overpriced earbuds, neck pillows, gum, and postcards. Her hand stopped without thinking. One card stood out among the generic skyline shots and cartoon landmarks. It was illustrated, soft-edged, a stylized drawing of Morrowvale International silhouetted against a setting sun, the terminal windows glowing orange like cathedral glass. In the lower corner, in looping faux handwritten font, "Wish you were here." She picked it up, paid for it in coin, and borrowed a pen from the counter, its cap chewed and ink barely functional. At a quiet bench near the windows, where the horizon blurred into tarmac and clouded sky, she turned the card over. She wrote, "Dear E, I got where I was going. It took me longer than it should have. I got lost a few times. But I remembered. I remembered everything. Thank you for waiting. M." She stared at the words for a long while, let the ink dry, ran her finger gently over the name she hadn't dared write again. Then, instead of mailing it, she opened the manual and tucked the card into the page where her rule now lived. When a name is spoken with truth, the forgotten may fly. That night, as she closed her locker, she found something waiting inside. Another postcard. This one was old. Edges worn soft, corners curled. It smelled faintly of salt and smoke. The image on the front was nearly identical to the one she had written on, but darker. The sky behind the terminal had gone violet black. The windows no longer glowed. They reflected. She turned it over. There, in sharp, deliberate handwriting, unmistakably his. Got it. Memory doesn't always arrive on time, but it usually knows the way. You found it, and that was enough. E. She smiled.